CJ.
So,
yeah. So we got Pivotal Moments podcast here, and I say that you are an ideal guest. Thankfully, sometimes I think we got ideal guests on, and they kind of meet the marks a little bit. No, I know that a guy like you is exactly what we're looking for. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'll explain why.
Yeah, I was about that. The first question I was like, well, why is that?
Yeah. Well, I think if I were to sum it up in one word, it's energy. Okay, it's energy, and it's a certain type of energy, right? So you're jiving here because I think you know what I'm talking about. People give you a compliment about that often. You see, you are creating an environment that's aimed towards what I would say the masses in due time. Yeah, you're creating an environment to impact the masses, and it's full of nothing but positivity. Yeah, and I think we need more people. So thank you so much for coming on here today.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm like any podcast I'm on. I'm just grateful for the opportunity. Time is the most valuable thing we have on earth, so your willingness to share an hour and chop it up with me and believe in me to provide some value for your audience means a lot to me.
Let's kick it off. Yeah, let's do it. Thanks, man. So we gotta dive a little bit into your story because it doesn't happen overnight to where somebody becomes the person that is you. It takes development, it takes work, it takes grit, all the things. So we're gonna dive a little bit into that. And hopefully through storytelling impact people that are listening to this, because everybody's got something going on. So let's bring it back. Let's throw it way back. Okay? First of all, where'd you even start? Where'd you grow up?
So I was born outside of Philadelphia. I'm not going to go that way back. I grew up in Burlington, New Jersey. I went to Rutgers University, got my engineering degree. Did the normal path, I would say, that a lot of people do and go and sit at a desk. That lasted 11 months and then ended up in Houston, Texas because I followed a girl that I had a crush on since I was 10 years old. She's now my wife, and now we live here in Austin, Texas. But it all started, I would say, in a small suburb called Burlington, New Jersey.
Okay, nice. New Jersey, it's an underrated state. They call it the Garden State for a reason, people. It's actually really nice.
It has its nice aspects. I'll give it that. I'll give it that.
To work.
Yeah, it's more like it's not the places. I had to leave because of the general. So you said positivity when you use the characteristic for me. It just generally wasn't a positive experience for me. So I was seeking more. Now, what it did give me is you also mentioned what I believe to be my core values is grit, the East Coast grit. I'm really big into the health and wellness aspect of life. And I think that the mindset there started as like work really hard. Let's go like way back. I'm really into like history and how things work, really like engineering. And if we were to think about like why people operate there, it's you had a lot of immigration come into New York, Philly, and they built roots there. And then you just have generations of family that have never really left the East Coast, and they have this like gritty, work hard mindset. But because they haven't really seen much, and again, I'm making generalizations here, and anybody listening to this is a generalization because somebody's going to call me out for that. Not everybody is like that, and a lot of people are amazing on the East Coast, but just generally the vibe there isn't the same as other places that I've experienced on Earth. Now, once I came to Austin, Texas, I kind of put two and two together and realized, well, the East Coast also has weather where it's cold and dark for 6 to 9 months, depending on where you're at. And when you couple that kind of like gritty, I need to work hard, I'm going to push you down to raise myself up, with 6 to 9 months of cold and dark, you don't like the end result isn't going to be super positive, outgoing people who want to be outside and do all the fun things. again, a generalization, but I know the stark difference of living here in Austin, where there's a ton of positive people who came here to make an impact and be outside and promote a healthy lifestyle. And then I go back to the East Coast, and it's kind of like the same old. It's a heavy drinking scene. And yeah, that was one of the reasons that I had to get out. It was just like the lifestyle was not aligned with what I like to do and who I wanted to become more so.
What was it like in your household throughout your adolescence and stuff?
So I think if I were to like describe it, old school. Like that is how the easiest way to say it.
What does
like,
that mean to you?
to get good grades, work hard, be kind. The beauty of my parents, and I love my parents, I'm a black sheep, and they allowed that enough of that and supported enough of that for me to be my own man, as I would say. And I saw with a lot of other people like that wasn't the case, but I did still feel like there was a lot of options that I could have taken if I would have just been in a different environment. It was just like all I knew. Like I didn't know of the word entrepreneur. It was never said. Not one time. Not a single time. I believe. Now, I was the last. It's interesting because I'm 32 years old. I was the last generation where we didn't have smartphones in high school. Like we just had flip phones that I had like 300 texts a month that I can do. So I couldn't see outside of where I lived. So if I went back, it'd be interesting if like you flipped the timetables and like I was in high school now, you could see other things. Like who would I be? And I have no idea because you could see outside of your little scope. But all I knew was you're good at math and science. You're going to go to college for whatever you're good at in high school, and like you don't really think outside of that.
What characteristics would you give your life in general growing up? How would you label it?
And we're going way back here. It's kind of similar to how I am now, just in a different flavor, I would say. I am super gritty. I was diminutive growing up. I wasn't even 100 pounds going into high school. Was bullied a bit. Fortunately, I could hold my own. So like I became friends with people who were like almost protect me, but they would bully other people. But it was just like, again, a gritty environment where I just worked hard to get good grades. I was a 4-sport athlete. I was the captain of my high school team for soccer. I went and played college soccer. My life really was just like wake up, think about sports. Just like I would say a lot of other male teens out there, think about sports, girls. The only show I watched was ESPN. I didn't play video games until like they had, I'm a big community guy, and it's interesting when I think back, we put a projection screen in my basement and we had Rock Band and Guitar Hero, and when we could play community type of video games, that's what I did. But I wouldn't sit there and play alone. I was always outside. I BMX, skateboard, snowboard, played roller hockey, did a lot of like extreme type of stuff. And I also was an entrepreneur when I was a young kid. I was babysitting, shoveling snow, mowing grass. I had saved up probably like, I can't remember the exact numbers, but like 5 to 10K before I like had turned 18. And all my friends were like, why aren't you getting a job? And it was interesting. I got pressured into getting my first job at Hollister when I turned 18, and I quit 3 weeks later because I started putting two and two together. I was like, why am I doing this for like $7 an hour when I make more money in cash, like doing these odd other things creatively? But again, I had no idea what I was doing. I just was like, all right, what's the fastest way to make better cash with less input? It's like babysit or tutor, or I ended up being a busser at a country club, talk about like 4 hours and you walk out with $100. And all I had to do was like pick up plates and like listen to people talk about their businesses and other shit. So it was an interesting upbringing.
Reflecting on my high school experience, money wasn't really talked about all that much amongst my peers. So I'd say that's a kind of unique attribute that you had back then. What would you say?
I wouldn't necessarily say, like, we didn't talk about money, but it was just assumed that you would go and get a job at 16. Like at Acme or Wawa, which was a gas station, or my buddies worked at Burger King.
From familial pressure?
Just like, that's what people did.
That's what people did.
People were just, like, during their off seasons in sports, they would go and get like a side gig. I think a lot of it was just like, I lived in heavily middle class. So if you wanted something, you had to work for it.
Yeah.
But things were cheap enough where, like, if you went and got a little job, like, you could go to the mall and get your Abercrombie and Fitch clothes. Like, my parents were going to buy that shit. So for me, it was more sports driven. It was, I wanted $200 cleats. Mom and dad are not going to pay for that. So how do I pay for that? And then as I got older, it was like, I hate to say it, but alcohol and other things. And I had to figure out how to pay for those things. So I would, like, go get a job. And that's when I worked at, again, I was doing entrepreneurial things and I didn't even know it. I got a job at Panera Bread. The advantage of working at Panera Bread is they throw their food out at the end of the night, every single night. So what you can do is, if you work there, you can take whatever you want. So I would put this shit in boxes, and then I would bring it to all the parties that I was going to. And I would just trade. I'd be like, hey, like, I'll trade you a 30 for a 30 pack. I'll bring all the food for this party.
Yeah.
And like, that's the type of stuff that I was getting into.
It's commerce.
Yes. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you're well, here's what flashed on my mind. Talking about your upbringing there. What about your relationship with your parents?
So when I was a kid, the relationship that I had was, again, I would say very old school. My dad was the worker of the family. My mom took care of me and my brother. So
Just you and your brother.
Just me and my brother.
Okay.
So she would take us to all the sports and practices. My dad made sure that there was food on the table, clothes on our backs, and they did a great job at those two roles. But when I say old school, I think it was just like the communication was 100% lacking, which I would say any 90s kid is most likely going to say that. There's no like mental health outlets, or there was just a huge disconnect of what I was going through in my life and what they thought was going on in my life. And there really wasn't, outside of like love from my dad of him providing and love from my mom for her being there wasn't much connection. And I'm actually a lot more connected with my parents now, I think, because one, I'm an adult and I can speak to certain things that I couldn't speak to when I was younger. But then two, just the ability to kind of understand their lives a little bit more. I think, again, going back to old school and the lack of, they didn't have the internet either, of like what to look up or how to kind of optimize or effectively parent a certain type of kid. Like, I'm very rambunctious and out there and energy, and I was this like big fish in a small pond, and I should have been kind of doing other things. And I was kind of showcasing that, but there was just no way for them to know that back then. So it's more so we have a great relationship nowadays because I can speak to that and communicate. This is what I think. This is who I am. And then also asking questions of like, I'll ask when I see them, just like, what was your childhood like? How are you raised? Like, what makes them tick? So then I can piece together like why they acted a certain way when I was young or a teenager or in my early 20s.
You said piece it together because it is indeed a puzzle to solve.
Yeah, I'm interested in why did you act that certain way 10 or 20 years ago, so I can understand you more.
Yeah.
And now that I can ask that question, I can be like, oh, this is how I thought, or this is, and then it makes much more sense, rather than the story I made up in my head when I was younger.
First of all, what a wonderful opportunity it is to be able to do that, to get that understanding. Not everybody has that opportunity. So, way to capitalize. It's amazing. And what did it do to you when you didn't have that connection with your family, the one that you might have needed, what did that do to you?
Great questions. See, there's always this is why people say, like, I don't regret anything because it brought me to where I'm at.
Sure. Yes, yes.
It put a fire in me. It was like, again, I mentioned I'm a black sheep. Nobody understood me. So my mindset was, I'm just going to work so hard that I can leave. And like, almost like, I'm going to leave and just show you. And that's what I did, ultimately.
Yeah, and that's sounds, look, I can be way off base. Almost sounds like aggressive, perhaps. Well, is it? Was it anger driven? Was it frustration driven?
Question I have for you.
Yeah.
Do you believe there's a difference between aggressive and angry?
Totally.
Is being aggressive bad?
No, definitely not in all cases, no. Like sports is great. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think in today's world, we get a lot of people being aggressive in the right way is a male trait.
Well, I just want to clarify, like what the driver was to.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
Being aggressive is a male trait. Like if we weren't aggressive, we wouldn't hunt, and the whole tribe wouldn't eat. So the problem I was having, and I think a lot of other young men have out there, you don't know what to hunt. Like, you have all these feelings inside you, and you're told to sit at a desk and learn this shit. And I'm just like, none of this. Like, I'm in class. Like this is what my mom would have to deal with. Like, I would get in trouble because I'd be in class, and I would literally like be like, this is fucking pointless. Like, why am I here? Like, what are we doing here? Because
you would voice that?
Yeah.
You would voice
because a lot of times, like, I would get a good grade and then I would go to sleep in class. And I'd be like, why the hell am I here if I'm just sleeping? But I'm getting good enough grades to pass, quote unquote. So I'd be like, I can't go outside. You won't let me like go do shit. I'm old enough to do something. Like, when you're a young man in today's society, like when you're 14, 15, 16 years old, 100, 200 years ago, you were using your body. You were fucking working. You were using your body for what it was meant for. Today, you're told to sit at a desk and then they say, you have ADHD and we're going to give you medicine. When you have all these raging hormones, when you should be out building and solving problems and adventuring and traveling the world and doing different things, like, but we coddle kids. We're like, you're 14, 15, you're still a kid. When the reality is, you're not. Like, your mind and what you're capable of is of a young adult, but you're told that you got to be put in this box and like you got to wait 4 more years or 3 more years or 2 more years to get your degree. Then you can go on and go into another system rather than what you want to do. So for me, it created this hunger of. I mean, I knew the reality. I was like, I'm in this small town. I don't want to be here. I originally wanted to go to Penn State. I wanted to like leave New Jersey, and I couldn't afford it, so I had to go to Rutgers. I got a full scholarship, academic, to go to Rutgers. I played soccer, and then and there I knew that eventually, like I would leave. And when I got out of college, I signed a contract in Nashville, and like that was the first step to me being like, there's a lot more to this world, and like I'm gonna go do it on my own, and I'm gonna show like what I want to do and who I want to be, and I'm gonna leave kind of just like a phoenix. I'm gonna just peace.
So it wasn't like that drive or that I'm gonna show you, that finger point you, I'm gonna show you. It wasn't towards your family per se. It was just like the lifestyle, the environment. It was like, I'm gonna show you to the environment that you were.
It was somewhat towards my family.
Like a small piece of the pie.
Yes, because I have always been somebody that, and again, like the positive, like I see the highest potential in people. And it infuriated me that we almost lived in this small town in New Jersey. Like we didn't really, like we went on vacations, but there's just so much more of life we could have been doing, and I saw it. And they had lived, my parents, like, I love them again, but they lived on the East Coast for a very long time. And like, they grew up in Philly, and they never left that. Now they live in North Carolina. They travel. Again, this is where we're building a better relationship. We're helping each other grow. But
Cool.
back then, it was just like I wanted to live, and life was not a 25 square mile thing, and I felt like I was getting trapped in that mentality. And so it was a little bit, not to show you in an aggressive way of like put you down. It wasn't like that. It was like, I'm going to show you in a sense that you're going to be like, damn, maybe I want to join. Like that's
pull the blindfold off.
Yeah,
there's more. Oh, what's that?
Yeah.
Discovery. Got it.
Yeah. And then I'm going to pull you into it. And if you don't get pulled into it, then like, I'm just going to keep going. Like you help me become who I'm going to be. But fortunately, like my brother is crushing it in North Carolina. My parents just moved down there a few years ago. So everything is moving in a direction where they're kind of opening their eyes to what the next stage of their life is. My brother like wants to be a homesteader. He like wants to, he like gardens and farms and like, yeah, he does some cool shit. So it's just like, it's funny we're on this topic because having a younger brother, anybody else listening out there, being an older brother is tough because when you're young, you don't know how to communicate that what you're trying to tell them is out of your own failures. Mm-hmm. So like when I would communicate to my brother, I never really said, I couldn't like communicate like, I'm trying to help you because like I failed in these areas and I want you to avoid the same thing. And then we would get in fights because he's like, I don't want to do what you want to do. I don't blah, 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 blah. And when we got older in our 20s, I was like, if there's one thing that you do that you ever listen to me about, I was like, please just leave. Like pick a new city and just like go. You can always come back. And the cool thing is like two years after he graduated, he moved to Charlotte. So yeah.
Where did you go to school?
He went to Rutgers Camden. Yeah.
Did you have fun there?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Was it all scratched up to be?
I had a lot of fun in college. I think a little too much fun. I think if I went back, I would have, like, I don't drink anymore. I'm 2 years alcohol free, and if there's like, again, no regrets. I got my first job because I was in a fraternity and would go to a parties at this one fraternity that the guy that interviewed me. So networking is a huge thing, and partying helped me in that arena, but I wish I didn't indulge as much. I wish I would have, like, again, I didn't hear the word entrepreneurship. If I could go back to college right now, I would access, I would be at every entrepreneurial event. I would be doing all that. I'd be networking, communicating, I'd be hosting events.
Library, reading.
Yeah.
Like, awesome.
We're leading groups of, like, we're reading this book this week.
Yeah.
But I'd also, like, I'm not going to be, like, I would still be the person at the parties. I just wouldn't be the version of who I was.
Mm-hmm. Be more intentional there.
100%. Yeah. I didn't have anybody, I had nobody guiding me. It was just like, I'm going to lead into my vice. So you drink 1 or 2 drinks and then you drink 10. As soon as you have the 1 or 2, you're just like, fuck it. I'm going to have 7 more. But if I had like some purpose to work towards it, like, it would have been way more intentional of what I was doing at any given moment.
Okay. Gary Vaynerchuk really sucks. So he's always like talking about you got some catching up to do. He's not wrong. It's not wrong. And it's because of what we were programmed to do to start with, right? Think about our school systems. We don't know anything about credit or anything like that. We can go down that rabbit hole, but you're passionate about that. You're smirking because you're trying to hold back. What's going on?
Respond over react. Podcasting has taught me to do that. So if there's one thing in life, you can use this in any avenue. We're talking parents, right? Mm. I used to react. They would scold me, I'd react. Mm. It's something I try and do in my life, especially as I'm a new father, is anything that happens to me, respond rather than immediately react. So how do I want to respond to that? So to the point of catching up, if you view life as, I think it's a 2-prong. It's I'm right where I need to be, but I'm far from who I want to become.
Yeah.
So when you look at it like that, we all have a lot of catching up to do to the person we want to become.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting in this chair for a reason. I'm here for a reason. And everything I've done in my past has given me the opportunity to be in this chair. But I am cognizant of every choice I make moving forward is either a step in the direction who I want to become or a step away from that person. And if you just simply dial life into that, no matter how old you are, you're going to live a wonderful life. Because like, let's take my parents, for instance. If they're going to be going into their 70s in that's the next decade that they're approaching. If they say to themselves, well, I only have such and such time left, fuck it, I might as well just hang out, chill, do nothing. Or they could say, you know what, I only have so much time left, so I want to make it worth it. What does that look like? So you could do it then, or if you're a teenager right now, you can do what I didn't do and say, I'm going into college. What will make these 4 years the most worth it when I come out? Because it's going to go the blink of an eye. Or you can just lean into, well, what makes me feel good today? I'll worry about tomorrow when I get there. You don't want to do that, because when you do that, 4 years go by so quick, and then you look back and you're just like, I was not intentional with my time.
Yeah. So let's help the people. Okay. How do they get their consciousness? What's one thing that they can do today to start bringing the mindful back, so they're not doing that. So they're not looking back at their college experience saying,
so when you're younger, it's tough because everybody wants to tell you who to be, and I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to tell you that there is a blueprint. The best thing that you can do is understand time.
okay, and someone's going to say, how?
How do you understand time?
Ooh.
Well, first step is you're going to die.
Ooh.
You don't know when, you don't know how, but you're going to die. So if you think like that, okay, my time on earth is finite. There's people that have been on this earth hundreds of thousands of years prior to me, and as long as the earth doesn't die, there are going to be that many after me. I'm this one little speck. So you zoom out. It's the first thing. So you understand time, and that anything you do in this little moment, in the reality, doesn't really matter. So what does that do? That takes the pressure off of having to figure it out right now. You're like, no matter what I do right now, it's not really gonna matter. Don't kill anybody. Don't kill yourself. Don't do anything really fucking stupid, and it's just not gonna matter. So take that pressure off yourself. Then you start saying, well, if the average person lives until, let's say we're male, right? So it's around 80 now, 78. I'm 32. Do the math there. Let's just make it rounded. I got 40 more years. Anything worthwhile that you want to do in your life takes about 5 years. I mean, heck, if you want to have a kid, you got to first, however many months you're trying, and then 10 months to even have a child, and then 5 years before they even can really talk to you like a little human being, really understand, right? So 5 years for anything that's worth your time, your salt that you're putting into this. Children, 100% worth every minute of it. My son is 8 months old, and it's amazing. Some other things I did in my life, not so worth it, but I didn't come from the lens of, if I worked on this for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, what would that mean? Is it worth my time? A lot of people are just doing it day by day. So they don't take a step back and look at a eagle-eye view of time of okay, I can take a deep breath. I don't have to save the world today. But if I got on a whiteboard and I broke my life into 5-year chunks of what would be worth my time, what does that look like? So some people will break it down into I want to get really good at this sport, or I want to get really good at this instrument, or I want to be CEO of this company. Well, you're not going to be CEO of a conglomerate company overnight. It's going to take you 20 years. Is that worth your time for 20 years? Or you could be CEO tomorrow by making your own startup and then building that out. There's so many ways to life. There's over 7 billion people on Earth. when you think about that, when you have that eagle eye, you're like, oh, I can do anything. But see, this is the trick. Because you can do everything, people try to do everything. And this quote is, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And that's where the 5 years comes in, 5-year increments. Because then you have to decide, you have to say no to things. And I'm going to end right here with, then you're going to ask, like, well, how do you say no? So I just told you how to take the eagle eye view and be like, well, here's the things I love, here's the people I want to be, here's the environments I want to be in these 5-year increments. But there's still going to be a lot of shit that gets thrown on me that I'm going to want to do. How do I say no to it? Well, the last thing is you have to decipher the difference between like and love. I like a lot of different things. I like this soda, but if you said you can't have another one of these for the rest of your life, I'd be okay with it. But there's certain things in your life that you love that you don't want to be without. And you have to decide that. And the way to break that down is your career, your relationships, not just with other people, but with yourself, your hobbies, things you love to do, right? What do you want your great day to look like? And then that way you understand, well, I'm going to have to say no to a lot of things that I like to do because I love these few things. And I'm willing to sacrifice 5-year increments to really enjoy them. And I think in social media world and technology world, so many people are so depressed and anxious and overwhelmed because they haven't been able to break down what do they really love. And they're just so overconsumed with the dopamine of the stuff they like. And they think they have to save the world today because on social media it says you need to be a millionaire by 30. And that's complete fucking bullshit.
Is 5 years a arbitrary number that you chose? Is 5 years scientifically backed?
There's been research done on it, and a couple other people have mentioned 5 years. But for me, I just looked at my own life. We might have people here that are in college, and you go to college for 4 years. So a lot of people have been to college. They understand what it feels like for 4 years to go by. They also, if they didn't go to college, they went to high school. So you know what 4 years feels like, and you understand that anything that's worthwhile takes a bit of time.
Takes time.
Takes time.
Yeah, for my career to really kind of get that momentum.
It could be seven. You could want to be a doctor. You want to be a lawyer. But it ain't going to happen in year 1 when you're a freshman.
Right.
And it's definitely not going to happen in year 2 when you're a sophomore. But usually year 3, year 4, year 5, people start becoming who they thought they were trying to become when they first started in that first year. And that's where we just have to give ourselves more grace. But you also have to understand you live a finite life. So you can't do everything. You can do anything you set your mind to, but you can't do everything.
Here's a thought that might be helpful for people to do. Because it's something I've never did either. Let's say you do it as a man until you're 80. Okay? A lot of people do the 5-year planning, the 1-year planning, right? The goal setting and stuff like that. But I don't think people actually all that often plan their entire lives. Do they?
Have you ever read your own obituary?
No.
I would start there.
Okay.
It's a great exercise.
You have?
Yeah, it's been prompted to me a couple times, but the way that I've responded in the different groups and settings that I've been asked to do it is to say, I don't want anybody to read anything for me. I want them to press play. So one of the reasons I shoot so much content is because I want to show my life with all the other people. So whenever that time is, instead of you reading about some great man, because, okay, I did some great things, but I did a lot of shitty things too. But if you press play around all the people and experiences and things like that, that's what a life is worth. Not some words on a piece of paper. It's like those experiences with other people that they had in those moments where you I'll call up some of my friends and be like, remember this time? And for that split second, everything in the world just stops because both of you were just thinking about that one moment of time that you both shared together and nobody else will ever get it. How special is that? You have it with your mom, your dad, if you're lucky, your parents are still around, your siblings, your best friends. Those moments are fleeting, but they're always with you. And if you can record more of those moments to look back on, I have found that it's so fulfilling. And that's why I do podcasts and shoot content and do all that stuff. And if you could make that your why, I don't want to put down writers. If you're a great writer and a storyteller, like write a book, keep notes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My fashion is audio and video.
Have you planned your life? Your whole life?
We just did, my wife and I the other day, we did a 25-year plan. So what's that put us at? Put us at 57. Okay. So we backtracked from 57. I struggle to go any further than that just because I think I know who I'm going to be at that point. I don't know where and how life will look. A lot of it is, I mean, I've seen technology change so much since my youth.
Yes.
That there's a lot I can't plan for, but I strive for who do I want to be at those ages rather than what does my life look like. And that's what I'm working towards every day. So at 50, 60, 70, like I'm going to be running 80. If I'm 80 years old, I'm running marathons and shit like that. That's who I'm going to be. Where it'll be, what it'll look like, I have no idea.
When you wrote your 25-year plan out, is there anything special about that process? Or did you just get a blank piece of paper and write it down? And what do you do with it? How do you do it? You know?
Again, I can speak to how I do it, but I never want to like impose on people like this is the way you should do things.
Oh,
like,
yes.
Creatively, you know how to handle your own life and like what that looks like. But for me, I like to whiteboard. And the reason I like to whiteboard is because it teaches you that you're thinking too small. So when you go up and you put 25 years and you start writing things down, you're just like, is that it? Is that all I really care about doing for the next 25 years? Because again, you can go on this website and you be like, I want to travel the world. Well, I can book the ticket right now. I want to have 3 kids. Well, we can do that. I have 1
year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is.
So you start being like, shit, I need to think bigger. I almost don't want to know what it looks like because that means I'm not reaching my potential if I know what it looks like. So you start going through all these like mental models of like, okay, well, what are the must-haves? And for me, it's like time, freedom, and flexibility because I want to be there for my kids and experience the things that they're experiencing in life. Okay, how do I get the time, flexibility, and freedom? What do I have to invest my time into now to earn that? Then you start breaking it down like career, hobbies, the things that you're doing to then earn you that. But as soon as you see how logical it is, you're just like, man, I need to start thinking illogical. Like, what's something crazy that I want to do? Like, what's something just like that I want to do just because I want to do it?
Yeah.
Right? I feel like we've gone away from that.
What's one thing that you want to do because you just want to do it?
I mean, tomorrow I'm going to buy a bow.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I have no idea. I'm going to just go to archery country and be like, a bunch of my buddies at Swatch Fitness are learning how to shoot bows and they have this course where you like work out and shoot your bow. So you're like trying to shoot the bow after you did a workout. So it's like higher stress. And the reason I'm doing it is like, I need a hobby. Like I want to invest more in hobbies that teaches flow state and focus. That's something I struggle. Yeah. I'm very good with people because I'm able to bounce around and do all that stuff. Yeah. But to sit there and focus and like breathe, that's tough for me. So like, what's a hobby that can help me there? Another one that I want to do is I want to learn how to do a choreographed hip hop dance. Because I like work out a lot, I'm like very like stiff sometimes. So like hip hop dance is like the opposite. So why not learn how to do that?
Do you need a trainer?
A trainer for hip hop dance?
Yeah.
You know how to hip hop dance?
No. My friend Ashley.
At Ballet Austin. That's where I was.
Okay.
That's where we were going a few years back. So yeah, but I'd love to connect with Ashley. And the last thing is like learn how to play an instrument. Like probably guitar. I would love to learn how to play acoustic guitar. Yeah. Yeah. So those are all just like you start realizing like when you write up on this board, you're just like, actually, I care more about the bow and the acoustic guitar and the dancing than I do about like at 57 having $10 million in my bank account. And that's what I found. Again, going on a whiteboard shows me that. It's like, well, yeah, this is all cool, but like, what is it like to be human?
the whole putting on a whiteboard to see how small your thinking is, or notion. Did you pull that from Jesse Eitzler at all?
Eitzler? No.
Eitzler?
No.
Because he's got a whiteboard that's a wall.
That's sick. That's a goal of
It's
mine, I guess.
massive.
Now.
It's like, yeah, it's this whole freaking wall. But he also puts out the massive calendar.
Yeah. I have seen
I
that.
followed suit. It's on my wall. I got it a couple weeks ago, and it's great and helpful.
And one of the guys he talks about how he has like 4 things a year, and then one big thing. No, it's like 4. He has these 4 trips a year.
Oh,
I don't know what it is, and then they do one big thing a year.
the Sohi?
Yeah, so he is the one big thing.
Yeah.
And then this other guy is like, well, that's just not enough. He's like, we do these 4, I forget what the 4 ones are called, but it's like, yeah, so I have heard of that. And Masogi, I've been asking people what they want to do in 2024. I just did an ultra, so I'd probably consider that mine of this year. Next year, I don't know. Yeah.
Wait, an ultra marathon, 100?
I did 31 miles,
31?
50K.
50K?
Anything over 26 is technically an ultra marathon.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that was in the Carolinas?
Yeah. Lake Norman. Through the woods. It was really cool.
Hills?
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
I can show you videos.
that's no joke.
Yeah, it's like it was a trip. Like 6 hours. Took us 6 hours and 22 minutes.
You got a clip?
On my phone. I can show you.
Oh, I thought you were going to show me on that.
No.
Okay.
I'll show you after.
Okay.
Just getting some B-roll here, you know.
Yeah, awesome.
Gotta show the people
That's
what we're up
awesome.
to.
All right, so let's push forward a little bit here with. Let's just talk about a time that you were in one of your darkest. Because I don't care who you are, you've gone through something like this. Come on, Sharon. And we're going to talk about what all happened.
Yeah, I think mine is pretty simple, but I'll give a little bit of a backstory to how I got there. When I was about 10 years old, I don't know exactly, unfortunately, my aunt passed away of colon cancer. And I remember my 2 cousins losing their mom and just thinking to myself, you don't really know how to communicate it when you're that young, but if I had lost my mom, like I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't have. Like my dad, again, was the provider, but he didn't hug us and like love us the way my mom did. Like he didn't show us compassion and some of the things that she taught us. And that's not saying that he was bad. Like he was doing his job.
Yeah.
But you lose that and you lose almost a piece of who you are at a very young age. And I couldn't fathom that. And when I got into my early 20s, I started shitting blood and like having some really big problems. And I didn't know, like, again, as a guy, I didn't have anybody to talk to. So I kind of just hid it for a while. And that's why I think I drank a lot, because I was just like hiding pain and then masking some other things going on in my life. And my darkest, I would say, let me preface this with, on the outside, and this is probably a lot of people out there, nobody would have ever known. Like I was all making like $85K out of college. I was about to date the girl that I've been in love with pretty much my whole life. I was traveling. I was doing a lot of stuff that I wanted to do. But on the inside, like, I was dying. I thought I almost didn't want to live. I was losing weight. Yeah, pain. I was sick. I mean, you could look at photos. Like, I was really pale. People would be like, your face seems sunken in. Are you okay? Like, that had been said to me a couple times. And that was when I didn't really, my lowest point, I would say, is when I moved in with my now wife, and she looked at me and was like, you need to get help.
What year was that?
2016.
Oh.
Yeah, 2016. She was like, something that you're sick. And so, again, backstory, I have celiac disease. I didn't know it at the time, and I was suffering from anxiety, depression, irritable bowel syndrome. I was afraid to go to work because on the drive to work, there's traffic in Houston, and like thought I would have to pull over because like I had shit myself in the past. So I'm living with all this anxiety, and I didn't know how to communicate that. Like, it wasn't like I do sauna and ice and red light and get IVs now. Like, there's so much I do now that has put my disease in remission, and I'm much more resilient. And I'm okay talking about it, which is a huge thing. That's why I do stuff like this, is like to tell other people, tell me, tell somebody. I didn't tell anybody, and then I moved in with her, and she's like, "You got fucking problems, dude. You need to address these." So immediately I was like, "Okay, you're like the one person I will like bow down to, and like whatever you say." So I like spent thousands of dollars going to doctors. I got my first colonoscopy, I think was even before her. I think I got my first one, but then I got another one. I got an endoscopy, and just started basically refusing to give up. And this one moment, this was when it flipped. So I was suffering, and anybody else out there, like, if you know somebody that's suffering with like a gut or digestive disease, like, it's like the worst thing in the world. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's, people can't work. Like, you literally, so I'm this 24, 25-year-old. I was still fit. On the outside, nobody had an idea. Like, dude, you're looking great. Like, can you train me? Whatever. But I was going to the bathroom like 8 to 10 times a day. And like, I couldn't gain weight. And I felt terrible, had no energy. And it was bad. Like, in my mid-20s, I'm like, I'm going to die. What ended up happening was another unfortunate event. My grandfather passed away. We're at the funeral. I see my dad's other sister. Unfortunately, she suffers from Crohn's and some other issues. And when I saw her, I asked my dad, like, "Hey, when did your other sister start having issues like in her life?" And she's like, "Oh, mid-20s. And it smacked me like a ton of bricks. So I was like, holy shit. And then I asked, like, when did she get cancer? And I was like, oh my God, like, within 15 years, I could be dead. And that's why I told people, literally, like, you need to think, like, finite. So as soon as I thought finite and I zoomed out, I was like, work doesn't matter. All this other bullshit that goes on in my life doesn't matter. I have to solve this problem. I have to solve my health problem, or nothing else will even matter. So I just went all in on, like, I was reading CDC books on how to read blood, like my own blood work. So I've like done my own blood work. I know how to read that. I know the different tests against, especially so like a nutrient test that showed me that I have an immune response problem, worse than cancer patients. And I know this because my dad has cancer, and doing the test versus him, and seeing that, like, I'm this, like, on the outside, pretty fit looking dude, and that should be in his prime, but something's really jacked up on the inside. So I do these analysis, and I'm like, okay, I got to supplement with these different vitamins. I can't ingest them because my body has a problem absorbing them, so I need to get IVs to then help me absorb them. And my 2 years go by, not 2 years since I found all that out, but like 2 years since I started understanding the blood work and changing things, my markers changed by 20 in the positive direction. I'm about to go do the test next week to make sure that I'm still heading in that direction. But to say a long story short, like, the darkest moment of my life was really just like understanding that I'm going to die if I don't change. And I think a lot of people don't face that head on, versus I am blessed to have Erin in my life, and coming home to her every day, and her basically being like, you can do this, you need to change. And she also works on herself in the same way. So it's very motivating to be with some other person who shows up in a way where they understand. Because her father died of a heart attack at 53, and she's getting heart tests done to make sure that hopefully she doesn't have the same fate. So when you're with somebody else, and that's why I say, if you're listening to this, to reach out to people who get it, because there are people who get it out there, and you basically become accountability buddies, because nobody's going to care about your life as much as you care about your life. But there are other people who understand what it's like to be in your shoes. And there's people in your friends or your family who don't suffer from those things. It's egotistical for you to believe that they're going to understand. And that was the problem I had. I always thought that people should just understand the pain and suffering I'm going through. Well, it's bullshit because they're going through their own pain and suffering. They have their own journey that they're on. And I would hold that against them, like, oh, you don't understand is a thing that I used to say all the time as a young man. Well, of course they don't understand. They have their own shit that they're going on. They have their own problems. And like, they're never going to understand because they don't live in my body. But there's other people out there that if I communicate what I'm going through, that will say, I can empathize with you and like, let's get better together.
Yeah, that's gold. For anybody listening, I'm going to ask you to replay in your mind what he just said, what CJ just said. It's gold.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's been a long journey.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Dang. Thank you for sharing that.
Crazy to say, it's been almost 15 to 16 years since it like was a thing. And then I was like working through all that shit. I can't believe that it's been that long, but
Well, you said you've got the marker test coming up next week, right? It's gone up how many points since?
Okay, so I'll give people even a bigger, broader background. So spectrosol micronutrient test, if you score, like it gives you a graph of where you should be at when you're a certain age. So when you're late 20s, early 30s, my number should have been around 70, I believe, and I scored in the low 40s. Anybody below like 30 is like, you have to go get real help. Like you need to be in the emergency room, like something's bad is really going on.
Yeah.
And then like people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, they're still supposed to be in the 60 point range. You don't drop off that much as you age. It's basically your immune response to show like if you got really sick, would you survive? That's pretty much what it says, what it's giving you. And then it also gives you antioxidants and vitamins that you're lacking in. And for me, I was deficient in glutathione, which is the number one antioxidant. I'm not going to describe what antioxidants are. You can go look it up. Everybody probably knows what ChatGPT is. Go look up antioxidants. We all know what vitamins are and how important they are to you. And there was a couple of vitamins that I was low in. So as soon as I started supplementing across to get them, I felt a million times better, which then means my body, if something were to happen, like I got cancer, I'd be able to fight it off. But the real goal is we can't defeat disease, but you can prolong your ability to not get disease. And you can also check for markers to make sure that you catch disease early on. So if you get your blood work, if you're like me and you know you have an issue early on, I get my blood work twice a year so that I can catch it, because especially with cancer, if you catch it early on, in today's day and age, you will survive. But if you catch it late, they still don't have a solution for you. So it's like making sure that you're catching it. And for me, first test I did was in 2020. So it's going into this spring, it'll be 4 years since I really found a solution that I've been working to improve, and I've had massive changes in my life over 4 years. But when I said 16, it was like, that was when I was like, I gotta tell my mom.
Scratch on the surface.
Yeah, like we need to go like get some probiotics or something, and we need to go to the gastro, like, and see what's up. And then, of course, I would go another 2 years. I'd still be suffering, and I just wouldn't say shit for 2 more years, and then I'd drink more and do some other bad shit. And then I just progressively just picked up the pace. I'm like, I need to change. And then the darkness came about my life and really kind of made me realize I need to just take this head on, and I need to, if you listen to Jocko Willink, complete ownership. Eventually I got to the point where it was just like, none of these people care about me. I can't expect them to care about me. I still love everybody, but I love myself the most, and I'm going to handle this shit. And that's what I did.
On the other side of darkness is light. How would you describe the light?
How would I describe the light? Energizing. There's certain points throughout the year, it only happens like 2 or 3 times, where I get sick. I'm like, holy shit, this used to be every day. It helps me have more sympathy and empathy for other people, because I realize that most people are just walking around sick. So if they snap at me, or if something happens and I don't like the response, I kind of view it in a way these days where just like they're just not right in mind. They're not at peace.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the energy. So then it helps me be like, well, how do I help people get that energy? How do I help them get the light? Because we should, in my mind, everyone should wake up fired the fuck up.
Yeah. Fired up.
Should be fired up.
So
I'm alive.
It's looking to do better, looking to do good.
Yeah.
Being grateful.
But when you feel suffocated, it's hard to do that. So it's like, how do you get people out of that suffocation? Usually it's, okay, well, what's holding you back in the first place? And usually you got to point the finger at yourself and help people understand that pointing finger at yourself is not a bad thing. It's not innately like you're a bad human being. It's just like you play a part in your story. And until you own that, the good and the bad, you're going to stay in the dark. But the light is energizing, like to the point where it's Monday, it's after 8 p.m. I can do this for another 5 hours. We're not going to do that, but I could. And then I'm going to go home, rest up, do it again tomorrow. And like over and over and over and over again.
Flooded.
Yep.
That is the light. Now, how do people? Well, we got to talk about the biz. We got to talk about the biz, and then I got one final question to ask, and we'll wrap it up.
Let's do it.
So, just tell the people about what you got going on, about your ecosystem, your world you're creating, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So,
because it's important.
Yeah, I think because there's a lot that I do on a daily basis. The thing that I always try to instill in other people is to read books and listen to podcasts, listen to more podcasts like this. That's what helped me understand what I could potentially get my hands into in the world. You don't know what you don't know is something that I always say. And until I started learning about all the intricacies of the business world, I was selling myself short. So my strength, again, going back to like people and kind of seeming ADHD and understanding that like I have this innate ability to just bring the energy. Well, what type of career path is great for that? And like even within that career path, what is the different projects I should be working on? So my podcast is going on 4 years, the Thrive on Life podcast. I've been doing social media, so Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it, for a decade now for some of those platforms. Again, the content that I produce is really just about building community, making connections, helping other people grow, and my lifestyle design. Like, what life do I want to live? And I want to share that with other people. I built a brand called Thrive on Life because of my wife's father dying in that spin class. Like, we both wanted to create something more, and that's how Thrive on Life was born. So make every heartbeat count is one of our sayings. I have a tattoo of heartbeats on me. They're finite, so it makes me realize, like, any given moment, like, am I living the way that I want to be living? And what Thrive on Life really is just a personal brand that has helped me connect with other people that kind of believe in the same thing. I'm an athlete, so I compete in something called High Rocks. I've done 12 of them now, just did my first ultra. That has led me down the road of being like working with brands and being sponsored by different brands, clothing brands, hats, products, you name it. I've done a little bit of micro investing in different companies. I've done private money lending. I'm really big into, you mentioned credit card hacks. Like, I just earned Companion Pass again for the third time with my wife and I. So she flies for free with me on Southwest, which is huge because now that we have a son, flights add up when you keep adding to your family. I coach young entrepreneurs, typically men, who are seeking to live a similar life that I live. The biggest win I've ever had has been in real estate, purchasing a house here in Austin, Texas, and selling that, and then reinvesting that into the property I have now and several other things.
Shout out to our good friend, Mr. Gross.
Ian Gross, man. Love Ian. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything I forgot. I mean, that's the stuff, like
That's
the what I do is less what I care about you understanding. It's more why I do it. Why I show up every day is I'm wearing a shirt that says 1% better. I come from a small town and I always wanted more. And what I realized really quickly when I got outside of that was all I really wanted was more for myself. And if I earned more for myself, it meant that I could give more to the people around me. And that doesn't have to be money, it doesn't have to be material items. A lot of it is experiences. I mentioned the ultra. I ran with my buddy Jeff McSweeney. Shout out Jeff. I've known him since I was 10 years old as well. And after just giving him a hug afterwards and him being like, man, like, thank you for challenging me to do this. He'll never forget that moment, and neither will I. It gives me chills thinking about it. But like doing that with other people, like, I mean, that cost us the flight and whatever it cost to enter, but I didn't give him anything. I made him suffer with me, and that was super special. Like, that's what Thrive on Life is about, is asking yourself, if today's my last day, or something I ask other people was just like, if you knew you only had 10 days, how would that change your next 10 days, right? You'd really start thinking like, well, what do I want to do with my life?
Yeah.
So
It's a powerful question.
yeah, if you knew you only had 10 days rather than 10 years, how would that change your actions that you take? And I care more about you knowing that about me than like what I do. But I always want to be clear that if you're an entrepreneur and you need help starting a project or a business or getting connected with people who understand that, or you just want to understand money and how to make money in 10 different ways, I'd love to have a conversation. Because the more people that understand how to get 1% better themselves, health, wealth, and happiness, the more that they can spread it, and the more people have great energy in the life that we're talking about.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Who's? We're gonna wrap this up, and forgive me that these folks out here. We have a garage door,
It's all good.
and they keep opening and closing. What are you doing? Here, I gotta ask. I always like to wrap this up with this question. Who's one person that is alive today that you would want to have a conversation?
So there's this thing, mentioned Gary Vee. He was at a talk downtown here, and you had the opportunity to go up to it.
At the theater?
Yeah. And I didn't go up to him. And the reason I didn't go up to him is because I want to befriend people. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of people because I don't truly know whoever it is that I see. If I read a book about somebody, if I see a YouTube video, I don't truly know who that person is or how we would connect in an environment like what we saw. So when you ask me the question of like, who would I want to meet that's alive, it puts it in the context of like, who are you a really big fan of? And there's not a single person in my mind that I would be like, I would drop everything to like fly and go meet this person. Now, if you were to frame it, who would you want to build a deeper relationship with? There's one person on earth. It's obviously outside of my wife. It would be both my parents. It would be both of them because, again, going back to the finite amount of time, and that's why I think my wife and I are looking to make a move that's closer to her mom and then my parents as well. I don't know how much time we have, and I don't really know who they are.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of us don't. If you don't live near them, like, you don't really know, and it's hard to get to know them when you are traveling on vacation or like they come in for a couple of days.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. It's surface level. Right.
Things.
So I've just had that realization like over the past couple of years. I think a lot of it has to do with going back to Jesse Itzer, have you heard him, like, he talks about it, Tom Billy talks about it, like, if you only see them twice a year or once a year, like, you're only seeing your parents like 20 more times. You heard
Yeah. What's his name talks about that?
Yeah. So I heard that, the first time I heard that was in 2018. And it really started to make me think. And then my parents, when they would come out and I would see them, I noticed that they were getting older every single time because you only see them every 6 months.
Dude.
Right? Oh. So if you're listening to this and that's you start realizing, like, holy crap, like, time is like passing. Shit, it's crazy. And when I look back on my life, hopefully I live into my 80s, 90s and reach 100. Do I want to say that I took an effort to get to know them more? Or I think a lot of people fall into, like, posterizing celebrities and other people and spending too much time worrying about that rather than the circle right around them that they can really learn from. So I didn't mean to butcher your question, but it is something that I've thought about a lot, especially since I had my son Aiden, and that has been on my mind. Is like, how do I spend more time with them and my wife's mom and that side of the family. We have 2 nephews. We're looking to get our son with them, hang out with them, and then I'm sure my other brother and sister-in-law are going to have children, and how we get Aiden closer to them and our future kids. So it's like, when I think about the time that I want to spend it, a lot of it has to do with those people.
Is there anybody in the business space that has similar values as you? You'd like to is commiserate the right word? You'd like to ping pong, mastermind.
If there's somebody that I'd like to get asked to, like, a retreat or like a fun thing with them, it's Richard Branson.
Richard Branson.
Yeah.
And what about him?
If you read his book, I think it's like Losing My Virginity. It has nothing to do with like sexual virginity.
No.
It's like talks about Virgin, his company. That man just has lived so many stories, and you're just like, it's almost like he did business the right way. He didn't have it ass backwards where it was like, we're going to make these businesses to like commercialize all these things and make a ton of money. And I'm sure that was on the forefront of his mind, but it was more so because he thoroughly enjoyed just doing the damn thing every day and having a fucking good time doing it.
So you appreciate that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Energy and light. Bring the energy because you love it. So like, I don't need to be a billionaire. Like, am I going to openly say that? There's other people out there that's like, I need to be a billionaire, which is cool for them too. But understanding who you are and what you want to be and respecting other people for bringing that to the world. It's like, I would love to be at an event where he's throwing it because I know it's probably going to be a hell of an event. It's going to be fun in the right way. Like, I'm going to be able to talk business the whole time, but I'm probably going to be like doing cold plunges and out on the beach or doing some crazy thing that they have going on rather than in a suit, in a stuffy, what do they call them? What are the big rooms in hotels?
Oh, a
conference room.
Conference room?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
A banquet hall. Yeah. I don't want to be there.
Nice stuff.
No way. So if there was one person, it would be cool to go to an event that he hosts.
What's the next event?
I'll have to look it up. Preach my own, drink my own Kool-Aid. Go make it happen.
Yes. Yeah. Well, folks, it's been real. Been fired up.
What's your biggest takeaway? I ask this question on my podcast all the time, so it's something that I think we just talked for a while now, and I'm reading this book called, the 2 books right now, Building a Second Brain, which talks about like organizing your thoughts and ideas, and then Hyperfocus. And both of them have this thing of like how to dissect what you've done to make things more comprehensive so that you can take them with you and take action on them. So what we talked about tonight on your end, what was the biggest takeaway?
Yeah, drawing out life's goals on a bigger platform than, say, a piece of paper. Right? It's helpful. Whiteboarding it, perhaps.
I want to add something to that. It's great that you brought that up. Do it with someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone else you care about, and they care about you. Because they're going to challenge you a little bit of like, are you sure that's what you want? Or they'll ask questions that'll make you even think a little bigger to like get to that point. Like, what do you mean by that? What does that look like exactly? And when you have that person and you do it, it also makes it more fun, which is the point of everything, I believe. What are you even doing, bro?
Where do people find you?
Instagram is the easiest way, at cj.finley, Finlay. Just DM me. And if you listen to this, send me an audio or a video message, because that gets my attention the most. I do that to other people a lot, and I get other people sending me video and audio, and like that just builds a better relationship because I can hear your voice or I can see your face, and it's just like, that's what we're meant to do as human beings, and not meant to just sit here and twiddle my thumbs.
Well said. Well said. Well, folks, I'm sure that you've got some gold nuggets from this just as much as I did. This has been incredible. CJ, thank you so much for coming on tonight, man. I really appreciate it.
Heck yeah. I wouldn't have spent my time any other way.
It's fired.
I appreciate all of you. Thank you for listening to this, and look forward to catching you next time.
Till next time. Cheers.